Once more, I'm sorry for the breaking event. This is what normally we complain on the continent. Our networks are actually not good. There are times we have a kind of network trafficking system that may definitely prevent live broadcast. Most of the time that I do not actually come online is because of maybe a breakdown in our transmission, especially in our network system. Nevertheless, welcome to Focus on Liberia. I'm the West African correspondent, Edward Amara, coming with the latest news on the continent of Africa, live and direct from the city of Kailahun and Kenny in Kailahun district, Kailahun town in Kailahun district, Eastern Province, Sierra Leone, right along the border of Liberia and Guinea. In Guinea, we share boundaries here with the Republic of Guinea, a very close big cities there, the Gigidu Conakry. Then when you talk about Liberia, we share boundaries here with Lofa County. Welcome to this all-important event. This is a platform here focused on Liberia. Use it to inform, educate, and keep our wider listeners abreast with events that happens on the continent of Africa. We expect positive input contributions on the program about event that we come here with. Focus on Liberia, report news. We do not make news. We analyze events, things prevailing circumstances. Things that actually happen are what we analyze. We have nothing to do with things that we make up. So you're all welcome. You are free to participate, make your own positive contributions. Today we are having major events that are taking place in West and Eastern Africa. So in West Africa, we definitely check in Senegal. We will have mass protest plan. According to them, it's a plot maybe to disqualify an opposition leader, Usman Sanko. Then we'll definitely go into Kenya, where a court leader, an alleged court leader, is standing trial. Then we shall also definitely go in the DRC Congo, where the government of Kishan Kedi has actually accused the regional forces of forming a coalition with the M23 rebels into that part of the country. Maybe to continue the destabilization of that country, and which will also give them the opportunity to exploit the natural resources of the DRC Congo. Then in Nigeria, the Supreme Court in Nigeria is saying that it is too late for share company to be sued by over 30,000 people in the Niger Delta because they are taken over 10 years, over a decade. They did not come with their case, and they said under their legal system, if a particular company need to be punished for its odd activities into that part of the country, then that court case should actually come in a space of 6 years time. Unfortunately, Chef are only been sued in the space of 10 years time. So they are definitely ruling out that particular case. Finally, we also end in Tanzania, where an MP has actually been warned not to undress themselves into parliament, which is actually against the preceding and the norms, culture, or tradition of the world. And it is expected that MP should be fully dressed into a coat and tie to actually forward or maybe go ahead with proceeding into the court. So welcome to this all-important event. These are majorly the news that I'm going to analyze in a brief time that I'm going to be with you. So welcome. You can feel free to contribute on the program. Let's see. In Senegal has been actually one of our stable democracy on the continent. But party of fact, we are having actually maybe a kind of chronic rebellion in the northern Kasama region since the day of Abdullah Wad. We have been seeing maybe chronic movements of the people in the Kasama region, maybe seeking for cessation or emancipation, they want independence. However, after Abdullah Wad relinquished power, we have seen Makassar coming into power. The son of Abdullah Wad was actually arrested some time ago, prosecuted for corruption, and even banned from participating into any electioneering process into Senegal. On the backdrop that he was corrupt, he involved himself into manipulation, and it should have been allowed, but under virtue of fact, for him to actually run for any public office. Makassar came in, amended the constitution. He actually made the constitution in the 7 years term. In the first time, he completed the 7 years. So in his second year term, on the verge of his 7 years expiring, what he did, he conducted a referendum. After the conduction of the referendum qualified him to nullify the old presidential terms, which state that a president should serve 2 terms of office and 7 years per term. So now he has actually reduced the term to 5 years. But it is just like when people say there is no free aid. When an African leader decides to amend the constitution, it is actually done on a very selfish, greedy, and unscrupulous manner. So what he did, having knowing that he will not be qualified to run for another term in office if the constitution were to remain on a 7 year term, he amended it in his last year in the second term of his office, and he turned it to 6 years. Meaning, Senegal is now running a new constitution. If that is the case, then he, Macky Sall, have the constitutional mandate, the political right to run for an office of the president or for the office for the president, which will even give him an opportunity to run for another 2 years time. And if he continues winning, he may easily spend another 10 years in office. So if you compare 11 plus, 14 plus 10, definitely he will spend for 24 good years in office. You're having maybe strong opposition leaders like Usman Sanko, who was accused, the former tourism minister of what? Of corruption, embezzlement. And the courts has actually ruled against his public statement, a seditious, and they describe it also as libel, as false, baseless, and they have asked him to spend 6 months in prison, but suspended term, which will not allow him to involve into any political affairs. Then Sanko has actually been accused of rape and other domestic violence into the country. And in so doing, he is seen as the main opposition against Macky Sall if Macky Sall is actually opts to go into another presidential term. So if Sanko can be ruled out technically because of those reasons, and Macky Sall has the constitutional mandate to go ahead and contest for election into Senegal, it means Macky Sall, will not have a strong or solidified opponent. It will give him the right to win the election on a landslide victory. So as long as those allegations have come against his opponent, with suspended sentences, both for his accusation of the tourism minister and that of rape, but he has actually been officially banned not to take up any public office while he is serving his conviction. It means Macky Sall will definitely have the upper hand in those elections. And civil service, let me not say civil service, the civil activists, other human rights organizations, non-governmental organizations, and people who believe in the tenets of democracy have actually condemned his nefarious move, termed it to be unconstitutional and an assault on democracy. They are asking Macky Sall to obey the constitution and never to run for another term in office. So, Macky Sall, on his own part, have never come out publicly to declare if he will be running for election or respecting the constitution. But people have seen this as a subversive move to install himself into power. So, the opposition members or supporters of Usman Sanko are calling on the Senegalese to stage public protest against Mr. President and his governance system. But the police are threatening a full-forced repelling of those actions because they think and feel that move like that may end up to destabilize the country and set it on a trajectory of pandemonium. They are saying no. See, the issues is becoming a compounded one. And Africa, if you watch at the continent, not that we do not want to come with developmental issues on those things. Sometimes we search and search, we never see anything good except chaotic situations. So that is the development into that part of the country, and we are praying and hoping that things like that should not deteriorate on one stage to another. Let's come to Kenya. Kenya, the starvation court leader, is actually being summoned to court. And Kenya also have another leader who proclaimed himself as Jesus Christ. And Kenya, like Nigeria in East Africa, like Nigeria in West Africa, are so good at religion. Unfortunately, that of Nigeria, they have not come out publicly to proclaim themselves as the savior of the world, where they pretend having a Christ. Of course, they believe in fanaticism, and it has resulted into a lot of killing. We have seen Muslim and Christians confronting themselves. And there was a time when the former bank governor of Nigeria said Nigeria has been divided more than 50 years back when the Biafra war was ahead, because ethnicity and religious mentality have taken over their political setup, especially societal one. And in Kenya, being dominated by the Christian faith, they have come out with controversial religious mentality. And because of poverty and ignorance, I wouldn't want to use the word illiteracy, but illiteracy is also associated with those things. These are the three greatest enemies or foes of mankind: poverty, illiteracy, and ignorance. When they invade the society, they tend to bastardize even the very culture, the values of the society, because people who are ignorant, even the Bible says it, that my people are being destroyed because of lack of knowledge. When people are ignorant, they can easily be fooled. There are times they can be fooled by a fool. And so if somebody fools you, one, he's a fool. But if twice, you're a compound fool. So most Kenyans are living into such situation. And we have seen where Kenyans are professing themselves to be maybe the solution of everything. They're exploiting the population because of poverty. They believe in tithe giving. They preach salvation. And they even exploit these people that they have a direct connection to their salvation. This so-called Good News International Church asks its members to starve themselves to death in order for them to meet Christ. And the latest autopsy report suggested that some of them died from strangulation, starvation, and suffocation. So if somebody dies from strangulation and suffocation, it means they were put in close tight area. For starvation, understood, most of them were scattered into the forest and asked to starve themselves. And even when the Red Crossers and other humanitarians or philanthropist organizations approached them, these so-called folks refused to even be given food, with the notion that they actually are meant to die and meet Christ in heaven. That is the most foolish mentality that I have ever come across. It's the one that we need to stand and preach against. The radicalism being preached, the fanaticism being involved into our religious mentality is creating more havoc. Unfortunately, these so-called politicians, they also use our religious aspect to mentally colonize certain followers because of their own clandestine or ulterior motives. Most of these things are definitely not helping the continent. And most of the churches being set up are exploiting institutions. It is only in Africa that they are seen pastors who are filthily rich at the detriment of their membership. They keep calling for tithe and they do everything. And they tell you that all your conditions are related to evil. And most of those things are actually done by political malfunctioning. People actually should be told where their problem lies instead of using it against them. Kenyan and other West African countries are being exploited. And of late, we have understood that, in fact, this so-called church is actually involved into organ trafficking, because most of those people who die from suffocation, strangulation, and starvation, some of them have missing organs. And as I said yesterday, even the other Ikwimadu, a senator in Nigeria, who has actually been convicted for having flown with a man into London for his organ to be extracted, the kidney, in order for him to save his daughter, who was going under regular dialysis, for her to be saved. And he threatened the man to kill him if the man does come back to Nigeria. After it was being revealed that this man was not adequately informed on the kind of the what drastic measure that is about to take upon his life, which involved a lifelong threatening decision. When the man was adequately informed, he withdrew from the operation, and Equimando and others have been arrested and are definitely serving various type of prison time because of these things. We need to be very careful over situations like that happen. So let's come back into DRC Congo. In DRC Congo, the government of Tshisekedi is accusing the regional forces that have actually been sent into DRC Congo, maybe to put down the rebellious attitude of the M23 rebels, and even DRC Congo in the east of DRC Congo, in the northern Kivu region also. They are suffering from flooding and mudslide. Their situation have actually been compounded with the presence of the M23 rebels who are busy fighting against the government. It is unfortunate. It is quite amazing. Things are actually being destroyed to that part of the country. But when we see these regional forces going over there, we thought that initially they're actually there to solidify situation, pacify, or may come just to pacify the situation and come there with everlasting peace. Unfortunately, because of the natural resources that are actually found into the DRC Congo, these so-called regional forces now are now using the situation to compound, if not exacerbate the situation, and they will have now the opportunity to exploit their natural resources, which is seen by the government over there as a subversive move, is a deliberate attempt to entertain rebellion into the country so that their presence can be felt, if not remain there permanently, so that most of those guys who those poverty striking soldiers can gain themselves and also liaise themselves with the government where they come from so that they can be exploited. And the interesting part is that almost all East African countries are willing to just send peacekeepers into the trouble region. Not that they have the genuine intention to end the war, because most of them have been accused of being the perpetrators of the said war into those countries like Rwanda and Uganda and other people. But they want their presence to be felt so that they can carry out their exploitation. Philip Kistankedi is actually accusing them. And I have never heard or seen Mantifaria, the main opposition leader, coming out. The Catholic in their own status quo are saying nothing. And they have maybe solid decision into making certain things that happen into those countries. So these things are so terrorizing and they are destabilizing our continent. And they are trying to create a type of situation where Africa may almost always find itself into difficulties. We come into Nigeria. And Nigeria, too late to sue Shell top company. What they are saying here, Shell is one of the greatest oil extracting company found into Nigeria, even on the continent. It has actually been accused of polluting the land into the Niger Delta. Over 30,000 people have actually sued them to court. And they are asking for them to pay for all the destruction of property, especially the land that they have caused actually in the Niger Delta. However, the court is saying that if the owners of the land or property realize that a kind of international company have violated the clauses that it signed for and is actually encroaching on the people's property and maybe destroying their land and other property, they should actually sue the company to court in the space of 6 years. Unfortunately, it has taken over 10 years when Shell was being brought to court. So they are saying Shell does not have a case to answer. So the case has actually been tentatively thrown out of court. But the people are also saying on numerous occasions, this is not a hidden complaint. It's nothing that is so strange. It's nothing uncommon. They have come out with those cases on numerous times. They have won to court with those cases, but the court never took them seriously, and their case was not being heard. Only when the time is expired, and now the court is giving those flimsy excuses. So they are pushing for their case to be heard. In Tanzania, we are also seeing in Tanzania MPs have been warned not to ever undress into court. An MP actually brought his case, which in representation of his constituency, and for the violation of the people's right in the parliament. When his submission was being overruled by the speaker, he took off his coat and tie in protest of that. The speaker saw it as a violation, especially for the code of dress into parliament, and has warned the MP never to repeat such thing. And she also extended the warning to other MPs. The MP was so maybe angersome, he left in court in a furious mood. It is not a violation for you to present your case in the well. It is not a violation for you to maybe